Good evening. I call to order this July 14th, 2026 meeting of the Blair Mayor and City Council. I am Mindy Rump, the Mayor of Blair. Oh, hang on. It's okay, I'll just talk really slowly.
It's Brenda's fault. She's supposed
That's right, I was supposed to remind you.
Hey, Aaron, it's 7. When in doubt.
You want me to do it again, so you know the date?
We're good. Go ahead.
It is July 14th, 2026. I am Mindy Rump, the Mayor of Blair, and I am pleased that you have joined us this evening. This is a public meeting, and you are part of the process. I encourage you to participate, share your thoughts, and ask questions, and I will do everything that I can to make sure that your voice is heard. We do have several rules to help us proceed with the meeting, and I ask that you please keep them in mind. Please turn off your cell phones. If you need to take a call, step outside the chamber, and when you wish to speak, simply raise your hand, and I will call you forward to the podium. Brenda Wheeler, our city clerk, must record who you are, so please state your name, spell your last name, and state your address. Keep your remarks brief, about 3 minutes, so that others have the opportunity to speak. And please direct your comments to either myself, City Council, or to our city staff. A copy of the Open Meetings Act has been posted by both exits, and we will begin this evening with a roll call of members.
Banner.
Present.
Paulson. Long.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Willis.
Here.
Clark. Fletcher.
Yep.
Eichel.
Here.
All members present, but Paulson and Fletcher.
Thank you. If you'd please stand and join me, as you've already done, and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You guys know what you're doing. You all stood up before I even told you to. Item number 4, approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Please register your vote.
Rick? Is it Kent?
Kent.
Mine not.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 5, consider resolution 2026-076 approving Chastity Hahn as a new member of the Blair Volunteer Fire Department. Chief Ayton, good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Dave Ayton, 2313 Hickory Circle. Current Fire Chief. Tonight we are here to transfer one of our cadets from the cadet program over to a full-fledged member. This is what that program was intended to do. It has done a very good job, and her, along with a couple of the other senior cadets, have done a very good job. And this is what that program is for. So we are more than happy to bring her over to a full-fledged member. She has worked her tail off the years that she's been there, and she's done a very good job. And I know she followed in her grandpa's footsteps, and he'd be very proud. So,
Very
if
good.
you would, please.
Council.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-076 as presented.
Could you introduce it first?
Let me do that first. I'd like to introduce resolution number 2026-076.
Resolution number 2026-76 was introduced by Councilmember Highfill approving Chastity Hahn as a new member of the Blair Volunteer Fire Department.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-076 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Congratulations. Thank you for your dedication to our department. We're all very proud of you. Item number 6, consider resolution 2026-077 approving supplemental agreement number 3 with JEO Consulting Group, Inc. for preliminary engineering services for the federal aid project River Road Connector Trail. Mr. Heaton, we've been wanting to talk about this for a long time.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, Mayor, Council. Yes, we're finally moving on the design for the River Road Connector Trail. The council remembers, we've been working on this for several years. Predecessor secured a TAP to help pay for this trail, $1.7 million. We ran into some early issues with Union Pacific and questions about, whether we're allowed to or not to cross the railroad on River Road and then again by Jackson Street. We did some preliminary design work on just the crossings and were able to, get a vote of confidence, if you will, from Union Pacific that we could move forward. So that's what's before you tonight. This amendment or change order supplement, what do you want to call it, is basically adding on the full design for the project. So it'll take us from where we are now to ready to go out for bid and hopefully begin construction within the next couple of years. It'll be a pretty lengthy process. Since there's federal grant tied to this, there's some more stipulations, so there's environmental reviews, just a lot more hoops to jump through. But the total amount of the amendment is just over $200,000, so $200,973.95. The new total then would be $221,768.15. And again, with that grant, it's an 80-20 split, so our cost of that is only 20%. But with your approval tonight, then JEO will get working on this right away. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments from the public? Having none, Transportation Committee.
Well, we did meet on this, and a long overdue project that we would like to get finished up on. So with that, I'd like to introduce Resolution 2026-077.
Resolution number 2026-77 was introduced by Councilmember Wolf, approving supplemental agreement number 3 with JEO Consulting Group for the preliminary engineering services for the federal aid project River Road Connector Trail.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2026-077 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-077. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. We're very pleased about that.
Yes.
There were a lot of players, like 2 engineering firms, the railroad, City of Blair. We've got all of our ducks in a row. We can move forward now.
Been a
Thank you.
challenge and a learning experience.
Yes. Item number 7, resolution number 2026-078, awarding the bid for the 2026 mill and overlay project. And before you begin, Mr. Heaton,
I'd like to make a motion to receive and place on file the bids for the 2026 mill and overlay project.
Second.
we have a motion, a second to receive and place on file the bids for the mill and overlay project of 2026. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Heaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Aaron, do you mind opening the bid tab just so everybody can see it, please? Thank you. So yeah, we did put this out for bid several weeks ago and received back 3 bids for the 2026 mill and overlay project. The low bid was Omni Engineering at $382,961. Midwest was the middle bid, just over $478,000, and Western Engineering was the high bid, just over $517,000. So our recommendation is Omni Engineering. This will take care of both. We split it into a A and B bid package, as you can see in the bid tab. So let's be able to get everything that the council approved, I believe, 2 meetings ago. We'll be able to get all of that done this year. And then we'll see how the budget turns out for next year, and we can keep moving with road maintenance. So, any questions?
When will it start?
Good question. I don't know their exact schedule, but once we get approval, if it's approved tonight, then we'll get a contract drawn up with them and get going just as soon as we can.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks.
Any comments from the public? Having none, Transportation Committee, you've been busy.
Yeah, we did meet on this.
Like CJ said, when we had broken this out for the A and B plans, we had budgeted an amount for this. This takes care of all of the budget essentially for this year's mill and overlay, so that was good. No, we had no questions, so if you guys don't have any questions, I'll introduce Resolution 2026-78.
Resolution number 2026-78 was introduced by Councilmember Letcher, awarding the bid for the 2026 mill and overlay project to Omni Engineering.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2026-78 is presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-078. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 8, consider resolution 2026-079, approving amendment number 10 to the agreement for engineering services with HDR Engineering for the water treatment plant Phase 5 expansion project. Mr. Heaton.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Mayor said this is Amendment 10, which should be the final amendment on Phase 5. It's been a several-year-long project, which the final concrete should be poured this next week or two, and that project will be done. This amendment is kind of a catch-up, just where HDR has gone over for various line items in their agreement, kind of gone over the scope, namely the redundancy work we did on the Cargill main. So we wanted to make sure that the new line and the old line could both function independent of each other or together, or, you know, any kind of configuration that we needed to make sure Cargill always had water. And then there's also, as Phase 5 was wrapping up and the guys started using it, just kind of had some design tweaks they wanted done. You know, one thing was the industrial pump, the high service pump room. Once it started getting hot out, that room was getting up over 140 degrees. So it's going to start melting VFDs and pump issues, plus nobody wants to work in there. So we did some engineering work to put more louvers in, get some fresh air in there. Some work on, the air actuated valves, designed to put in a second air compressor so there's redundancy, so we can make sure that if something breaks, we can always have redundancy down there to make sure the water plant runs. And then just some fine tuning, I guess, updates to the existing chlorine pump room. So not the Phase 5 one, but the original one, just to make sure that if there's any chlorine gas leaks, everything's safe, works as it should. But the total for that amendment is $45,729, and that we should be wrapping this project up very soon. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public? Water and Sewer Committee.
We did meet on this, and like Steve said, this is basically, balancing out the work that needed to be done to complete the project. So if no one on the council has any questions, I will introduce resolution number 2026-79.
Resolution number 2026-79 was introduced by Councilmember Willis, approving amendment number 10 to the agreement for engineering services with HDR Engineering for the Blair Water Treatment Plant Phase 5 expansion project.
Make a motion to adopt resolution number 2026-79 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-079. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 9, consider resolution 2026-080, approving an on-call agreement with Houston Engineering for various flood regulations and FEMA assistance. Mr. Heaton.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, if council remembers, back in August, we had a pretty good rain event in town. I think everybody's aware of the creek damage to the Cobble Creek bike trail, where part of that trail has started to wash off. That is a kind of a separate standalone project that Houston is working with us as the engineer, helping work through FEMA issues and making sure that we can get, some funding for that. The second project, or another project that we're working with FEMA on, is there are probably 3 locations throughout town at various spots in the creeks that there's either large piles of trees that washed in after the storm or erosion, or both. So we've had concerns from property owners, city staff, we'd like to get that cleaned up, address those issues. So we've been working with FEMA to get these kind of on a FEMA project, whether it's disaster funds or possibly mitigation funds to get these things addressed. But each one of those 3 spots, FEMA's treating as its separate thing. And so each one of those, then we need to go through a floodplain certification, like a no-rise certificate. We need to clear who has jurisdiction, if it's FEMA or the Corps of Engineers has any jurisdiction on it, or if it's city property, or if it's private property. So there's a lot of red tape to work through each one of these sites to make sure that, one, can we do the work? Two, if we do the work, can we get paid for it or apply for some kind of assistance? So Houston Engineering did a lot of work. They used to be FIRA Engineering. They did all of the flood maps for the city several years ago. So we've been working with Houston to kind of go through and help us check all these boxes, if you will. And so not knowing exactly what each spot would need, if it needs any help at all, or any kind of engineering work, we kind of set this up as an as-needed on-call agreement, not to exceed $150,000. And like I said, some spots we may not need any help at all. Some of it may be just kind of some guidance to help navigate all the red tape at the Corps or FEMA to make sure that when this is all done, we can hopefully apply to get some FEMA dollars to help pay for any work we do end up completing. And it should be noted that any of this engineering work that ties back to these projects, FEMA could potentially help cover up to 75% of that. So it's kind of an open-ended, but there's a limit on this. So I didn't want to just leave it completely a blank check, but we will not engage with them to do work unless it's something that, Jake's gone today out sick, but he's been working with FEMA. I know Aaron's been in on calls. We just need some help kind of navigating all of that red tape, I guess.
I think this is an important project. All of our little creeks last August during that natural disaster event did their job.
Correct.
And to ensure that they continue to do their job, we need to make sure they're cleaned up and ready to go,
Yep.
For another 100-year event.
Yep.
But I want to do it right. So this is a very important project, in my opinion.
I agree.
Any other questions for Mr. Heaton? Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Any comments from the public? Having none, Water and Sewer Committee.
Yeah, we did meet on this, and, as CJ and yourself alluded to, we need to make sure that we are good stewards with the, natural reliefs that we'll have, right? And so if FEMA's getting involved, we need to be able to get some help to kind of deal with that. So similar to what we've done in the past, what they've done in the past, year or so is kind of create these on-call agreements and set a limit. And so we thought that was a good idea. So if there's no questions, I will introduce Resolution 2026-80.
Resolution number 2026-80 was introduced by Councilmember Blair, approving an all-call agreement with Houston Engineering for various flood regulations and FEMA assistance.
Motion to adopt Resolution 2026-80 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-80. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Item number 10, consider resolution 2026-081, a letter of intent between the City of Blair and Lutheran Family Services regarding the replatting of a portion of Lot 81, Transformation Hill Edition, and the dedication of a public alley. Mr. Green.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council members. Almost got away without me saying anything tonight, except my little report, but we did tack this on at the very end. If you hadn't noticed that it got added yesterday before the 24-hour cutoff happened, I apologize. Next time, we'll make sure we send out an email, just reminding everybody that we did add on a new item. As the mayor had mentioned, this is a resolution basically authorizing the mayor to sign a letter of intent with Lutheran Family Services regarding this strip that's illustrated up here on the map. So Kelly Boulevard, located here, the houses on the north side of Kelly Boulevard, and then this would be basically an alleyway immediately behind that. Right now, this property is part of Lot 81, I believe it is, that's owned by Lutheran Family Services. We do have an easement in that area for the water main that runs along here up to the elevated tower at Black Elk Nyhart Park. But we don't have any other access other than just being able to take care of that. When the houses were built, the neighbors kind of act like or feel like it's like an alleyway behind their property. Sometimes they've asked us to try to help clear some things up or take care of weeds. It's not our property. It's owned by someone else. It's just been kind of a maintenance nightmare. And so for the last couple of years, we've been talking with Lutheran Family Services about their willingness to donate this strip to us, but we've been waiting for them to do a replatting process with Easter seals because they have a little bit of land that they're going to be swapping back and forth to provide Easter seals access up just immediately west of Borup Coliseum. And then there's a couple of the dorm buildings that originally were transferred to Easter Seals when that transition was made, but now Lutheran Family Services would like them back because they want to use that land for some of their future development. So we know there's a replatting that's going to be taking place in the next few months, but we wanted to move forward with this sooner than that. And so that's when we came up with this idea of this letter of intent. If you, again, authorize the mayor to sign it and then Lutheran Family Services signs it, we will proceed to kind of take over responsibility for this. There's some grading that needs to be done. We especially want to do a little bit of ditch work on the north side of this area, on the north side, because there is some drainage that comes off this parking lot up there, and it will help protect some of those houses on the very end, and then it'll just naturally drain over to Hanson Drive and be picked up by our stormwater system at that particular location. Again, it will, if this is all approved, it will be treated just like an alleyway, which means it's available for public access. The neighbors have to realize that, and we'll make it very clear to them that, we can't stop people from driving down that particular road, but it really won't go anywhere. And in fact, Lutheran Family Services, which owns some of the property here and is going to be taking over part of this little area, I believe has a fence already, roughly in this particular area here. So they're going to be stopped from being able to proceed onto the Easter Seals property eventually. Any questions you have for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments from the public?
Sean Cooper, COOPER, 2300 College Drive. I downloaded the agenda either yesterday or the day before, and this item wasn't on there. So I think that it would be wise just to postpone it, just so everybody can review it in plenty of time and make sure that everything is good to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from the public? Council, how would you like to proceed?
Judiciary Committee.
We met on this as a Judiciary Committee, and it's been an ongoing problem with some of those houses with water running down that hill. So I understand your comment about postponing it, but it's going to end up happening anyway because somebody's going to take care of it and get the water from going down in those people's yards. So it's not going to cost the city anything other than the maintenance we're going to have to do on it, but it's going to have to happen because nobody else is doing it. So are there any questions from council? I'd like to introduce resolution number 2026-081.
Resolution number 2026-81 was introduced by Councilmember Highfield, a letter of intent between the City of Blair and Lutheran Family Services regarding the replatting of a portion of Lot 81, Transformation Hill Addition, and the dedication of a public alley.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution 2026-081 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution number 2026-081. Please register your vote.
All council members present voting aye.
Motion passes. Mr. Green?
Mayor, I might, sorry.
I said you've got 5 minutes?
Okay.
I'm teasing.
Oh, come on, it's nice and early. No, I will add, if I can, just because of the previous comments, state statute does stipulate that you can add agenda items to your agenda up to 24 hours ahead of time. If you're going to add it after that 24-hour notice, or that 24-hour limit from the meeting, it would have to be for an emergency purpose. You would have something on that agenda that night then if there was an emergency declaring that added because it was an emergency in light of the council. But just so everybody knows, best practice usually is double check within 24 hours just to see if something does get added, because it does happen occasionally. We try not to do it very regularly, but it can happen. Couple things just to bring to your attention. Again, staff is finalizing all of our recommended adjustments to the draft budget. We will be contacting the various committees probably later this week to try to set up some subcommittee meetings over the next following 2 or 3 weeks, and then probably either at the next meeting in July or for sure the first meeting in August, we'll have more detailed information to be able to share with you regarding that budget. We may send out a little bit of information to you as well, just kind of heads up on some of the directions that we're going. Just a reminder, though, that obviously with electronic communication, you're not supposed to be communicating as a group back and forth with each other. It's always hard this time of the year with budget issues because sometimes it's easy to bounce ideas around, but you can do that individually. You just shouldn't be doing it as a group and making any final decisions. CJ had mentioned regarding the storm damage. So again, this is from the August 9th, 2025 storm, but there was a lot of damage scattered around town. It's amazing how quickly municipalities can expend quite a lot of money and people not necessarily notice all the expenses that were being made, but give a big shout out to Jake and to CJ and to David and others on our staff who've been working, Aaron, working very diligently with FEMA to work through this process. So just wanted to bring you up to date on some of the funds that we have received back. All of this is money that we've expended already, and so this is the 75% refund that we've been getting, but we've already received back from FEMA $286,880.93. So that's in our bank account already. We are soon to be closing out and then receiving an additional almost $540,000 for expenses that was primarily the extended man hours for public works, as well as the very large expenses that we had in tree grinding, the additional contractors' hours, and other related invoices for all the cleanup that was done. And then we're still in the process of working through an additional $354,000. So all in all, total should be about just under $1.2 million that we will be receiving back. Again, the way the FEMA works, they'll refund us 75% of our actual costs. So again, that $1.2 million is the 75% of what we've actually paid out already for these problems and these challenges. Again, the way FEMA natural disaster stuff works is 75% reimbursement to the local municipality, roughly that additional 25% is usually looked at as a shared expense between the municipality and the state, but it's completely up to the state whether they want to actually contribute any cash dollars to that. In the past, they have done that. We're going to continue to be working with NEMA to see if NEMA has any funds that they'll be willing to share with us. So there's a possibility that of that remaining 25% that currently is Blair's responsibility, we may be able to dwindle that down to just 12.5% of those overall costs. But again, greatly appreciate all the staff and their hard work in pulling all this information together, and obviously the great work that was done at the time of that disaster. Not only the Public Works Department, but the Police Department, Fire Department played an active role that day in all the activities that were going on around town. So greatly appreciate again all of their efforts. You have in front of you a copy of this sewer study, and so I just want to make a couple comments regarding it and encourage you to spend some quality, time with this study. There's a lot of detail in here, but I think it's very, very worthwhile for you to take a look at. I'll be working with CJ and Jake to make sure that we get a PDF copy of this out on the city's website, because these are exactly the kind of studies that we can spend some significant amount of money on, but I think are critical for us to be prepared for the future. So this is an evaluation of our current sanitary sewer system. I will tell you today, and obviously you picked up, I'm sure, during the budget hearing, that of any of the public works areas, sanitary sewer, both the plant as well as the infrastructure, is probably the area that we have, I don't really want to say the word neglected, but not spent as much resources on as we have some of the other things, just because it's somewhat forgotten. We've been fortunate that our wastewater plant can handle 2 million gallons a day in capacity. We've only recently reached half of that point, half of that level, so it's functioned really well for us, but it's an older plant as well. So we have some maintenance that needs to be taken care of. And frankly, our system is getting to the point where it's beginning to reach capacity in several significant areas. A couple things that I'll bring to your attention, starting on roughly page 26 in there, it begins to talk about the difference between the functioning of our system during dry times versus wet times. And what they mean by wet is basically when you get rain, and especially extensive rain. Now again, we hate to have those 100-year storms, but that August 9th storm last year gave us some valuable information about how our system can handle that amount of rainfall. And one of the worst things that you'll have with a sanitary sewer system is what they call I&I. I&I stands for inflow and infiltration. Obviously, when you have a sanitary sewer system, it's collecting all of that sanitary waste from all the different properties, whether they be residential or commercial or industrial, at times industrial properties. Many of our industries that have very heavy loads in their effluent end up doing pre-treatments and oftentimes have their own complete treatment system. But one of the worst things that can happen during wet times is that groundwater seeps into your system, and it can end up flooding your plant. So just to share with you a couple of the numbers that come off of page 26, again, we have a 2 million gallon a day treatment plant. Right now we're averaging about 1.3 million gallons a day. So again, just a little bit over half of that. But during that wet storm, we reached capacity at times. Now, the thankfulness was it rained for just a relatively short period of time, very heavy, and then just off and on again throughout the rest of that day. If it had been a continual deluge all day long, we really would have been in trouble. But at peak rate, they were bringing in 3.7 million gallons into a 2 million gallon plant. So almost double the capacity for a short period of time. Now, thankfully, the plant was able to withstand that. But again, if you had that for an extended period of time, you literally would flood out your plant. We would have been in violation of numerous, federal regulations, and that's just something that you want to avoid at all cost. There are ways to mitigate that problem then of seepage into those pipes. It can come from a wide variety of different sources. We may have some actual sanitary sewer pipes that have cracks in them themselves, and so therefore when the ground around them gets saturated, water seeps into the actual pipe. I think more prevalent is the fact that we have lots of manholes all over town, and if the streets flood, those manholes all generally have openings to allow natural ventilation to occur throughout the system, and water pours into those holes. There are ways to mitigate that by putting rubber bladders and some other things on each of those manholes. So it's one of the things that I think CJ and his staff is going to be working on, coming up with kind of some plans to begin to isolate different parts of the system that tend to have more I&I than what you see in some other places and begin to remediate that. So that's one of those immediate needs that I think needs to be taken care of. Then another section that you might want to pay attention to is starting on roughly page 36, and that's the area that begins with what they call recommendations. And the recommendations come in two different forms. They have recommendations for the existing use, and those are just things that probably should be looked at today, either because you're beginning to reach capacity already in certain areas, and there's lots of maps that are in there. Look at the colored little segments, especially on some of those maps. We'd be glad to sit down with you, and I'm sure CJ and I will be working with the Water and Sewer Committee intensely on this, but we'd be glad to kind of help explain into those maps too if you have questions. So one of the recommendations, one of the sets of recommendations is on the existing system, but there's also some language in there regarding what we worked out with them to call reasonable growth. And that's just looking at reasonable population growth, especially in some of the areas that we know are growing right now, where we have some of the subdivisions that are either underway, in the works, in planning, or there's been some discussions on. And it is that reasonable growth that could occur over the next 5-7 years that we also have to pay attention to. So there's some immediate things that need to be done because of the current system. There's some immediate work that needs to be done because of the existing system, and there's some reasonable growth to begin to plan for. All of that is going to continue to tax wastewater and the wastewater fund, and those rates are going to have to go up. I mean, that's just the only way to do it. You have to maintain a system. It has to be prepared for not only the natural occurrences that come around, but also for that reasonable growth expectation. So, again, a very, very valuable study for you to take a look at, and encourage you to do that, and encourage the citizens to take a look at that as well. Finally, the last thing I just want to mention, or I'll take any questions, is just an update on Von Lowe and his projects here in town. We did finally have an opportunity to sit down with the president of the bank that he's worked with primarily out of Columbus this last week. Had some heart-to-heart conversations about our frustrations, his frustrations. He's been promised many things that have not occurred either. So what I can let you know is, and some of this you already knew, but Elk Ridge and that development has been completely removed from Von Lowe's ownership. We did receive a bond from the new developer, and so we have authorized the engineers to go forward with the design for that. They'll be working on that over the next month and a half. Sometime down the road then, we'll be bringing to you that design for your approval and then authorization for us to go out for bid. This may be the very last assessment district development that Blair participates in, but we will be eventually then going out for contract to have the infrastructure put in, and then those costs assessed back to the individual lots. So that's Elk Ridge. And there's one individual lot that's not part of the Elk Ridge subdivision that is owned by Mr. Von Lowe, and that's being taken over as well. My understanding is the new developer, that's the lot that he wants to build his spec house on, that others will be able to see then for what the rest of the houses will look like in that particular area. And then you got the two properties downtown. Obviously the lots at 1600 and then the building at 1626. Alternate developers are being secured for both of those locations right now. The banker has some ideas on who he might work with. Mike Rooks has given him several suggestions of local developers who might be willing to step in and partner with him as well. So they hope to be finalizing exactly which developers will be overseeing which projects this week. Once they do that, our staff will work with him to finalize the current building permits and kind of bring those to a close, sign those off. Brand new building permits will be issued to the new developers, and hopefully we'll get on a path to moving forward with both of those projects, and get them done in a reasonable amount of time. So the banker really had no qualms in feeling comfortable being able to go forward and get those projects done. Nothing's occurred so far, at least based on what our building inspector has told us, that would, be a challenge that can't be overseen by these new developers. And so hopefully we'll be able to share with you in the coming weeks some really good news, and we'll begin to see some progress on both those facilities. Any questions?
I have a real quick question.
Yes, sir.
Back to your first comment, reference the agenda. When we add something like last minute, kind of considered last minute, is there any way we can put something out to the public saying, hey, the agenda's been changed, or there's an addition, so that we can maintain transparency?
Yeah. We'll do that not only to you, but, there's, if you'd ever registered through the city's website, when we post an agenda, there's usually an email that goes out. We can send out a supplement to that as well, and then obviously working with Jake. So, yeah, thank you.
Mr. Green, so we were speaking about the roughly $1.5 million that the city spent to address the issues with last August's storms.
Yep.
Where did that $1.5 million come from?
Most of that came out of the street fund. So again, back to the whole fund bucket concept. We've always got some money in that bucket, and that we're able to expend. So we did that a lot more than what we had kind of originally planned for, especially when it comes to disaster relief. But you always move into this knowing what kind of paperwork and reporting that you have to do, and then with the expectation that sometime down the road you're going to be able to recoup those funds. But the vast majority of it was through the street fund.
So does the reimbursement that we're receiving have to be rededicated back to that fund?
It will go back into the street fund, yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And then secondly, as far as, particularly on the 1600 Washington property, before any other new permits are granted to other developers, I'm assuming that an inspection will be made of that property to assure of its...
Yes. Yeah. So basically, our inspector will be going through as part of his due diligence to kind of wrap up the previous permit, because he'll have to verify what work has been done satisfactorily, what things may be so damaged because they set out, open, that they need to be kind of redone, or further repairs that would be required. And then it kind of gives the new developer a starting point to know where they kind of have to pick up the project and then proceed from there.
Excellent, thank you.
And if he senses any concerns that would require supplemental inspections by, maybe an engineering company or somebody like that, then we'll require them to do that as well before we would issue those permits.
Sure.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to propose a motion to adjourn this meeting of the Blair City Council.
We have a motion, a second, to adjourn the meeting. Please register your vote. All council members present voting aye. Meeting adjourned.